Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to give you a quick tutorial on using Google Drive in a more organized way and introduce you to some of the features that Google Drive offers. So if you want to open up your Google Drive, I have a quick link on my Google search homepage, but you can also click this waffle up here where you can open different Google apps. So when just looking at your Google Drive, you'll see that folders typically show up on the top, and any documents that do not live in a folder, any files that don't live in a folder, these are going to be floating around on the bottom. You can always reorganize your materials by the list view or use this grid view. You can sort them by name, ascending, name descending, etc. So I'm sure that some of your Google Drives are a bit on the messy side. So what I would suggest for you to do is to create a folder for this current school year. So that means taking all of your work from previous school years and putting it into a new folder. And yes, that's Chip in the background. So what you do to add a new folder is you click the new tab on the top, you click folder, and then you can name it whatever you want. So I'm going to name this old stuff. Sometimes people like to put years, so I'll put the years that I made these materials, and the new folder will pop up in alphabetical order. So wherever you name it will determine where it lands, and then all you have to do is highlight your documents and drag and drop them into the folder. Now, you all have a folder titled Google Class in your drive. Do not dump that in the old stuff or whatever miscellaneous folder you create. In your Google Class folder, you will see that every single Google class that you are enrolled in, past and present, will show up on here. So there's a folder that Google Classroom creates for you that holds all your documents. So you can go through Google Drive this way to find any assignments or classwork or documents that you may be looking for instead of navigating through Google Classroom. And I'll go back to my drive. Notice whenever I open a folder, the folder name shows up right here. So it lets me know what path I took in Google Drive to get to where I am. So to get into this folder, I'm in the 2014 to 2019 folder, which lives in the Google Class folder, which lives in Drive. So back to Drive. If you notice, I've left my Google Class folder out and then my current folder for this school year out. In my current folder, you'll see that I have whatever materials that I need for this school year living in organized folders. I don't have a lot of open documents here, only because it proves to be very messy as the school year goes on, the more documents you create. What I would suggest for you to do is to create a new folder for every single one of your mods. So I'm going to pretend I'm one of you and create a mod for a folder for every single one of my mods, and LA for language arts or ELA for language arts. And I'm using my mod numbers. So let's get rid of this one, that way you don't see that for now. For your UA classes, you can do this as well. So maybe you have French or Spanish, and maybe you have another UA that uses Google Classroom a lot. Once you do that, you can take any loose files you have and drag and drop them into the appropriate folders. So I'll pretend this seating chart belongs to Mod 1 Social Studies, and then it disappears. I'll pretend this Veterans Day assembly thing belongs to Mod 1 Social Studies again. Then I have these documents, and the names of the documents kind of make it difficult for me to know what is in them. This one's called class notes. This slides presentation is called presentation, and this Google drawing is titled untitled drawing. So it makes it difficult for me to identify what these documents really are. It's important that you take your documents and name them something that makes sense. So, primary notes, primary election notes, and then maybe I put the date. Titling something with a date and a very specific title will make it easier for you to find any notes, find any materials, or documents that you create that aren't created for you in Google Drive. So if I see that these are primary election notes, okay, these belong in my social studies folder. And then maybe this untitled drawing is actually a French verb danse sketch. So I can take that and I can drag it into that folder. And let's pretend this class presentation, I'm going to rename it, is actually Language Arts Latin Root Study Presentation. Now that it has a title that gives me more detail what is in the document, I don't have to open it to figure out what's inside of it. And then I can drag and drop it. This makes Google Drive easier to manage because you aren't scrolling up and down through a million different folders. An example of an overwhelming folder for you. So I have a bunch of folders up here, and then I just have documents upon documents upon documents in here. And it gets really, really cumbersome and confusing and frustrating sometimes to find materials. You can always use the search option up here. If I search Veterans Day, it's going to bring up everything that has Veterans Day in the title or Veterans Day typed somewhere in the text. So this document right here, the name has nothing to do with Veterans Day, but one of the phrases within this document is Veterans Day. Okay, again, a calendar has Veterans Day on it, so it can identify words in PDFs as well. These are PDFs of textbook chapters. Okay, so you can use the search drive as well. Google, you have a lot of apps that you can use. You can Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. You have forms, drawings, maps, etc. You guys mainly use Docs and Slides, though I could see you using Google Drawings as well. Another option you have with these folders is you can right-click over the folder and you can choose to share that folder with somebody. You can star it so that way it stands out, and then any starred folders you'll be able to find if you click starred. So I have starred documents. You can also change the color of the folder. So let's say French or Spanish, my binder was blue. So maybe I could make that folder blue. Google Classroom, I want that to stand out because I use it a lot, so I'll make that purple. Social Studies, my binder is red. Science, my binder is green. Math, my binder is yellow. And Language Arts, my binder, I don't know, let's do pink. And then old stuff, I'm not even going to make it a color because I'm not going to be clicking on that folder very often. So you have the option to change the colors of your folders, and it changes their colors here in the menu bar. This menu bar also shows you documents that are shared with you, recent documents that you've opened, starred documents, and trash. Back to Drive. So another thing you can do, if you want your folders in a certain order, you can do or rather you can use numbers. So let's say French and Spanish is my second class of the day, so maybe I'm going to write a 2 there. And then Mod 1 Social Studies is actually my third class of the day. So if I do a 3, Mod 2 Science, I could do a 4, and see how it's organizing all my folders in order, in numerical order. So you can use numbers to organize your folders, though this sometimes gets a little complicated and can become frustrating because you just see a bunch of numbers here. Name your folders whatever you want, but this is just another tool because these are organized alphabetically, though you can always sort using the reverse direction, so they go from highest to lowest, or from lowest letters in the alphabet to lowest numbers. In your settings, you can also introduce yourself to some keyboard shortcuts for skipping between files and folders and selected materials. And then Google is always very, very, very good with providing support. If you click on Help here, you can ask a question or type in a keyword. You can go to Training, the Training Center, and it can provide support when it comes to learning, switching from Microsoft, etc. Though that can get a little cumbersome. I like using the help feature more because I can just type in a keyword. And that is essentially Google Drive. Again, you have your calendar link here, your Google Keep link here, your Google Task link here. These show up on the side of your Gmail as well. Make sure you're checking your Gmail accounts also. Alrighty, so if you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to try organizing your drive and see how it feels. I like to reorganize mine and change it every so often when new folders or new materials become priorities. Speaking of priorities, Google has this really cool feature up top here. If you click priority, what you can do is, I already have things in my priority, but you can create a workspace and title it Important References, and then in this Important References I can look up documents that are important that I'm going to click on a lot, and you can pull it into your priority organizer. So for me, I have my weekly documents, I have the start of the school year documents that I use, any grade 8 documents that I need. I have resources and guides right here, so verb tenses, writing tools, assessment, vocab, etc. And then any documents that I've opened recently actually just show up on the top of your priority list. So this is a really cool feature as well. It only lets you put a certain number of documents in each priority bucket, and once you're done using it, you can remove the workspace or you could hide it. Alrighty, I hope you guys have enjoyed this little tutorial, and again, if you have questions, you know where to find me.